welcome to episode 78 of The Art of Humanity. I'm your host, Jessica Ann. Thank you to all of my new listeners who recently found my show, and a big shout out to Paul in Barcelona who recently left an amazing review. I do this podcast because it's my dharma, and the one thing that I ask of you, my dear listeners, is that if any of my episodes or interviews have touched your lives in any way at all, I would so appreciate if you could take a few seconds to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your episodes. It takes just a few minutes to write a few sentences, but it really helps to allow others to find my show. So this podcast, I'm just going to go a little bit off the cuff here because I want to talk about something that's really lighting me up. And I'm just going to preface this to talk about how this podcast has gone through many different cycles and rhythms and its publishing schedule. I used to release one episode every full moon. Then I switched to seasons, going full in on a theme or topic with a variety of guests. Right now, I'm simply sharing when I feel like I have something to say, when I'm inspired or lit up about a topic, or I notice a theme coming up for me personally that I want to address and embody. I'm so lit up to talk about embracing feminine values in a patriarchal world and how this has shaped me over the years. The normal givens of the world are that we need to operate on a rigid, demanding schedule to feed the 24/7 news cycle, which is very masculine. I've explored this theme throughout my podcast, how to re-examine our relationship with time. That's one of the reasons why I used to release an episode every full moon. It's more feminine, it's more in flow. It's one of the reasons why my podcast doesn't operate on a consistent schedule, because I found that there's a different way to exist in this world, and it breaks all of the rules of marketing and the 24/7 fear frenzy that most of us just accept. But I'm here for breaking the status quo, showing people what's possible when you tap into a higher consciousness, away from duality, linearity, and removed from the seduction of productivity, quote unquote production, and quarterly earnings. I had that life. I had that type A Jersey girl lifestyle. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 10 years, and I became a feminist, someone who believed in the fact that women are equal. This was a significant step towards gender equality. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this. Extremely grateful to my feminist foremothers who fought for us to live lives of equality. We were equal, but we're also profoundly different. Today, I don't try to operate as a man in a broken system, but I rather embrace the feminine qualities of stillness, of discernment, of creativity. So I really just want this episode to address how feminism pretty much stopped short of achieving true gender balance. This episode is in divine timing because I really only speak about topics that I embody or I want to embody, and I've been feeling into this topic for a while. My former type A life on the East Coast was grueling against the very feminine nature of my being. The woman in me today won't sell out to a primitive man with an objective. Feminism, it really aimed to give women the same opportunities, freedoms, and voice as men, but it didn't address that these opportunities had to fit within the patriarchal system itself. When I lived within the system, I was very masculine. I found myself struggling to reorient myself towards embracing my femininity, which is a huge part of who I am. So I'm not talking about going back in time. I'd rather discuss about how we need to be valuing our subtle knowledge and creative impulses, things that aren't really regarded in the patriarchal structures of today. I didn't know it at the time, but in retrospect, when I hopped on my one-way flight to California at the end of 2016, I was, in fact, deconditioning myself from the patriarchal system that I grew up in. My deconditioning process has been gradual, and I've been slowly bringing my polarities into balance. I've discovered new ways to simply be with a capital B, and what I value has changed significantly. I really value being in nature, and I go to the beach almost every day. I tune into Mother Ocean. I listen to my body and my heart. My mind has lost a lot of power over me. And as someone who has brought up seeking external validation, going to graduate school, and working my butt off for so long, today I integrate, I rest, I laugh, I play, I co-regulate my nervous system. This is what brings me meaning today. And this is how I make sense of a world gone mad. I'm not pandering to the broken system of yesterday or trying to fit into it. I'm here to embrace my femininity and bring balance to the broken system. We really need to create a new way forward that values the strengths of both men and women. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about podcasting. Not only podcasting on my show here on The Art of Humanity, but guiding others how to start a podcast. I had a career in my former life on the East Coast. I pioneered the initiative, the podcasting initiative for Sirius XM Radio. So I really was an entrepreneur in a corporation, and I saw the value of how we can bring our voices to activate who we are in the world. And this is why I created my high touch podcast program for creatives, for spiritual leaders and change makers who are ready to use their voice to change the world. If you're looking to start and scale a podcast into a globally recognized brand, enrollment for my podcast program is now open. I'm so excited about this because I only open enrollment a few times a year and I do it intuitively. So if you're intrigued, I highly recommend hopping on over to the link in the show notes and getting on the wait list. This is not your average how to start a podcast course. This is an invitation to meet your future self. This is you becoming a light beam for the planet. This is a course for those ready to use their voice to change the world. So if this is speaking to you and you intuitively want to learn more, go on over to jessicaannmedia.com/start-podcast to learn more and get on the waitlist. So I hope this episode makes you think and question the status quo. How are you currently existing? And if you don't like it, why are you still existing this way? Throughout each episode, I explore the deeper truths of society and culture as I share my embodiment process from California. I'm here in San Diego after leaving the rat race on the East Coast. And, it's truly my hope that this evokes introspection in you to living a more peaceful life. Make sure to hit subscribe to get all of my episodes on The Art of Humanity. And you can also follow me on socials at Being is Human. Thank you so much for listening.